My name is Elena. I'm 51. And I was just the maid. At least, that's what everyone believed. I wasn't invited to the meetings. I didn't wear a name tag. And I certainly wasn't expected to speak. I blended in like wallpaper inside the mansion, pushing my cleaning cart down marble hallways while executives in expensive suits barely noticed me. Until that afternoon. Mr. Hendricks, the Millionaire CEO, had flown in a group of international investors. They were powerful, silent men in tailored jackets and cold eyes. None of them spoke English, and the translator he'd hired was nowhere to be found. He panicked. His voice trembled, sweat beading at his hairline. "Someone call the damn translator!" Silence. Everyone shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. The deal was worth millions, and it was falling apart by the minute. I stood frozen near the doorway, my duster limp in my hand. My heart pounded. I knew what I had to do. "I can translate," I said quietly, my voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Heads turned. "What?" Mr. Hendricks barked. "I speak their language, fluently." He stared at me, baffled. "You're the maid." I nodded. "I'm also a graduate in international relations." Life had other plans. The room went still. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't invisible. And I was about to save the deal of a lifetime. The mansion wasn't just a home. It was a fortress of wealth. Polished floors, crystal chandeliers, and oil paintings that probably cost more than my entire neighborhood. But behind the luxury, everything felt cold. No laughter, no family photos, just deals, meetings, and the ticking of antique clocks. Mr. Hendricks lived alone, divorced twice, no kids. His world revolved around numbers and power. I'd overheard things during my shifts, calls with lawyers, arguments with board members. He ruled through fear, not respect. Still, he paid well. Most of the staff didn't last long, but I kept my head down, worked hard, listened. Until that moment in the conference room, I stepped forward, bowed slightly, and began to speak in the investor's native tongue. They turned to me, eyes wide. I translated Mr. Hendricks' pitch, word for word, adjusting tone and nuance. The investors began nodding, engaging, even smiling. Mr. Hendricks stared like I'd grown wings. After the meeting, he pulled me aside. "Where did you learn that?" "University. Before the divorce. Before my husband left me with nothing but debts and a toddler." He didn't speak, just blinked. Over the next days, he started asking for me, not as a maid, but as a liaison. I sat at meetings, helped write proposals, even rewrote an investor's letter that ended up securing another deal. People started treating me differently, especially Mia, the cook. "Elena, girl, you're full of surprises," she laughed one night in the kitchen. "Next thing we know, you'll own the place." I smiled. But something told me things were about to get complicated. Very complicated. I began waking up before dawn, ironing my old suits instead of my maid uniform. Mr. Hendricks wanted me at every meeting. Investors respected me. Some even addressed me directly now. My salary doubled in a month. The other staff looked at me differently, some with admiration, others with quiet resentment. Then came the evening I found the envelope. It was left on the hallway table, half open. Inside were legal documents, proof of a hidden account. Offshore, untaxed, millions. It wasn't mine to see, but I had. The next day, I found Mr. Hendricks waiting for me in his study. His expression wasn't gratitude, it was suspicion. "You've been curious," he said slowly. "You know too much now." My throat tightened. I was cleaning. It was left out. "Still, You're smart, Elena. Maybe too smart. He poured himself a drink. Then, as if changing the subject, he asked, "Do you believe in second chances?" I didn't know how to answer. He continued, "I was raised in the church. My father used to say, 'What good is a man's soul if he gains the whole world, but loses it in greed?' I lost mine a long time ago." I stayed quiet, heart pounding. "Help me, Elena," he said. "Fix this mess. If the investors find out, it's over. I'll lose everything." And there it was. He wanted me to lie, to clean up his financial sins like I scrubbed the floors. Quietly, efficiently, invisibly. I went home that night and barely slept. I stared at my son's photo on the wall. He was 17 now, working part-time to help with the bills. What was I willing to risk for this new life? I avoided Mr. Hendricks for 2 days. I focused on other tasks, scheduled translations, wrote investor reports, but his shadow was everywhere. I knew too much now, and he knew I knew. The atmosphere changed. He stopped calling me by name. His tone was sharper. Paranoia flickered behind his eyes. Then came Gabriella. She was a young analyst brought in by one of the European investors. Sharp, ambitious, and suspicious of everything. She pulled me aside after a presentation. "Tell me something, Elena. Why would a maid suddenly become his translator?" I tried to smile. "Life is strange." She leaned in. "Yes, especially when someone's hiding something." I felt the walls closing in. Later that night, Mia cornered me in the kitchen. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm in over my head." She touched my arm. "No, you're not. You're just being asked to choose." That same evening, my son called. He was accepted into a university scholarship program, but only if we could cover some of the living costs. My hands trembled as I hung up. Then I received a message on my phone, a bank alert. My account had been credited with $25,000 from an anonymous sender. I knew exactly who it was. He wasn't asking anymore. He was buying my silence. My breath caught. I looked around the room. Lavish chandeliers, golden-framed mirrors, suits and secrets. And I realized this wasn't luxury. This was a trap. And I was the maid who'd stepped into a lion's den. The confrontation happened on a rainy Tuesday. Gabriella had been digging, and she finally brought proof. A printed spreadsheet full of coded transfers and fake vendors. She dropped it on the conference table during a board meeting, right in front of Mr. Hendricks. "This is fraud," she said calmly, "and unless someone steps forward to explain, I'll be forwarding this to the authorities." He froze. All eyes turned to me. He spoke slowly. "Elena, tell them. Tell them it's a misunderstanding, that these are just translation errors." My hand shook. I looked at the paper, then at the men in the room, all waiting, expecting me to lie. I thought of my son, of everything I had built in silence, and I stood up. "I won't lie," I said. "Not for you." His face turned to stone. "After everything I gave you?" "You gave me money," I said. "God gave me a conscience." A silence fell over the room. "I was the maid," I said, louder this time. "I scrubbed your floors, I cleaned your messes, but I won't clean your sins." Gabriella stepped forward, gently taking the papers. "You did the right thing," she whispered. Mr. Hendricks didn't yell. He didn't argue. He simply sat back in his chair, staring blankly as the room emptied. Later, as I stood by the window watching the rain, I remembered a verse my mother once whispered during hard times. "Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues without right." Proverbs 16:8. That day, I lost a job. But I kept my soul, and for the first time in years, I felt truly rich. The fallout was swift. Within 48 hours, news of the scandal broke. Mr. Hendricks was removed from the board. Investigations began. Reporters camped outside the mansion. The empire he built on silence and manipulation was unraveling. One signature, one wire transfer at a time. I packed my things quietly. No goodbyes, no thanks. Just the echo of heavy boots and hollow hallways as I left through the back door, just like I had entered years before. But this time, I wasn't the same woman. That night, Mia came to visit. She brought warm soup and a hug that cracked my heart open. "They're calling you a whistleblower now," she said, smiling. "Some are even calling you a hero." I shook my head. I just told the truth. She looked at me, serious. Sometimes, that's the bravest thing a person can do. A week later, Gabriella called. "The investors want to meet with you?" They're impressed. They believe someone like you deserves more than cleaning floors. I didn't answer right away. I glanced at the table where my son's university acceptance letter sat. My hands trembled as I picked it up. "I'm not just doing this for me," I told her. "I'm doing it for him." I didn't take the money Mr. Hendricks had sent. I returned it. But the investors offered a consulting contract. Legal, honest, and well paid. Enough to pay for my son's college, and maybe one day start something of my own. For the first time in decades, I wasn't surviving. I was building. Learning how to be seen again wasn't easy. For years, I had trained myself to be invisible. Quiet hands, lowered eyes, never speaking unless spoken to. But now, people listened when I spoke. My first official meeting as a consultant was terrifying. Suits, strategy charts, projections. And there I was, seated at the table. Not serving coffee, not wiping crumbs, contributing. The first time I gave a presentation, my voice trembled. But halfway through, I looked around the room and saw nods. Eyes focused. No one dismissing me. No one pretending I wasn't there. And I felt something stir deep inside me. Courage. Gabriella became an unexpected ally. She pushed me, encouraged me, trusted me. "Don't look back, Elena," she said one evening after a long meeting. "You belong here." I still cleaned, though, at home, in silence. It helped me think, gave me peace. My son noticed the change, too. "You smile more now, Mom," he said one night over dinner, "and your eyes don't look so tired." "I sleep better," I replied. "My heart's lighter." But part of me never forgot where I came from. The weight of debts, the humiliation of asking for extensions. The nights I cried over broken appliances I couldn't afford to fix. And now, with every step I took in heels instead of house shoes, I promised myself I would never look down on someone who worked with their hands. Because character isn't shown in wealth or titles. It's shown in choices. And I had finally made mine. 3 months passed. I was working on a new project, helping restructure a small company swallowed by debt and bad leadership. It reminded me of the mansion, of secrets behind velvet curtains. One morning, a letter arrived at my new office. No return address, just my name, written in thick ink. Inside was a handwritten note. "Some debts can't be cleaned. But I hope one day you can forgive me. Hendricks." Along with it, a check. $100,000. No conditions, no strings, just silence. I sat there, staring at it, my heart heavy. Gabriella entered the room moments later. I handed her the note. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I don't know. You could donate it. I nodded. Or use it to start something honest. That night, I spoke to my son. I showed him the letter. What do you think I should do? He looked at the check, then at me. You always told me money means nothing without peace. Do what gives you peace. The next morning, I went to the community center downtown, where I once took free classes while working nights. I handed the check to the director. Use this for the women who don't have choices yet. She cried, and I felt lighter than I had in years. That weekend, I started writing a plan, a business of my own, not for profit, for purpose. Opening day was quiet, just a few women, nervous, tired, curious. We called it The Bridge, a place where women who'd lost everything could find something again. Language training, job prep, financial literacy, counseling, no uniforms, no judgment, just dignity. I stood at the entrance, welcoming each one by name. One woman, Rosa, reminded me of myself. She walked in with her shoulders low, her eyes darting. She couldn't speak English well. She worked 3 jobs. She was raising 2 kids alone. At the end of the first week, she stayed behind after class. Miss Elena, she whispered, do you think someone like me can ever change? I took her hand gently. You already have, I said. You walked through the door. She cried in my arms for a long time. Later that night, I sat alone in the office, surrounded by paperwork and plans, and I thought about how far I'd come. Not just in money, but in faith, in courage, in refusing to disappear again. Then my son came in, holding 2 coffees. You built this, Mom. We built this, I smiled. You and me. He looked around and nodded. Feels like hope. I remembered the verse again, not just as words, but as a promise kept. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. I had seen him, not in stained glass or sermons, but in quiet courage, in broken people rising again, in maids who became more than the world ever expected. It's been 2 years since that first day. The bridge now serves over 100 women. Some come with broken English and broken hearts. Others come afraid, like I once was. But they leave with something no money can buy: confidence, tools, community. Sometimes I walk the halls alone at night, touching the walls, the tables, the chairs. It still feels surreal. A dream built from dust and prayer. Mr. Hendricks? He vanished from the headlines. Last I heard, he moved overseas. No more emails, no more letters. But I kept the note. Not out of bitterness, out of reminder that people fall and people change. And grace is sometimes quiet. My son is thriving in college. He volunteers with us on weekends. He teaches the boys of the women who come here. He says he wants to study law one day to help people like his mother. I tell him every day, you are my greatest investment. He laughs, but I see in his eyes the truth. We didn't just survive, we transformed. Sometimes late at night, I pray, thank you, Lord, for using even a maid's hands to build something holy. Because in the end, it wasn't about riches or revenge. It was about remembering that we are never too small, never too late, and never too lost for redemption. And if one voice, just one, refuses to stay silent, the world can change.